got a weird dent on the bottom for some reason. That's odd. Alright, let me see if the chat, it looks like it's working. Looks like it's working. Okay, great. My dog's being crazy right now. Don't know why. But luckily I'm not the only person here right now, so someone else can take care of it. It looks like it's working, just I'm not seeing any chat activity, but I think it's working, so hopefully that's good. I'll get this going. Okay, cool. I see someone in there in the chat. So I believe that it's working. So I'm gonna get started. Let's see where to. Well, I know one thing I want to do. Let's see. There we go. This picture right here. I want to look at this real quick because I was zooming in on this, which is the tree I ended up generating yesterday. Well, this was using the tree generator. I tweaked it till I found one that I thought looked really good. So that's what it looks like zoomed out. But I'm going to zoom in so we can take a look at some of its features and think about it. So one thing I noticed that I thought was no good was the distance here is shorter than the distance here, which I don't really want that to be true, and I don't really have control over that right now. And that's a little bit difficult because these distances all sort of, they're not independent of each other, because if I move this point, it changes both of them. But I want to somehow be able to have more control over the distances between points down here and up here separately. So what's generating that distance right now is that I'm wondering if I should set up a sort of debug draw thing that would help me visualize this, because there's like a center point here, and then these are all offset from that point. So maybe what I want is to do a pass where I don't give any thickness to the tree, and I can see the center points. So I'm going to start with that. Let's see. Oh, and I wanted to mention at the beginning of this, and I am still using 4coder to do this whole project, and I did some work on this today, did some work on the editor, so a few things are different, a few things might not be fully tested, and a new rule to this game is if anything in the editor breaks, or if it becomes unusable or something, I either have to just deal with it and make it work, or I have to go stop working on the tree and switch to working on 4coder. So I'm not ever allowed to say, oh, the editor is not in a very good state today. and switch over to using Emacs on this project, because that would ruin the whole experiment. Anyway, I want to, yeah. So after drawing that outline, what I want to do is do a tree gen again. And this time do a sort of okay, and then do the parameters set the thickness right now, or is that just hard-coded? That's hard-coded. So let's put thickness, initial thickness in there. And then down there it's just a decay. I'll leave that as it is for now. It's probably going to change, but that's not the point yet. Initial thickness, that's 10. Might as well add a tweaker for that. Paste. Let's see. Oops. Initial thickness, which is going to range from, no, keep using Emacs key combos, which is wrong. 10 is where I have it now, so I'll range it from 1 to like 50. Alright. That would be interesting. Well, not really the point right now. Hello, Abner, and everyone else who said hello without putting my name on there. I just noticed it because it had my screen name in it at that time. Let's see. So I've got a thickness tweaker in there. And then what I want to do is down here I want a tree, what's it called? You know what I need is that thing Emacs does. It's like the simple version of an autocomplete. What do they call it? It just uses existing words, but I'll just call it basic autocomplete. Okay, so it is called tree parameters. Okay, so that should create a second tree that has all the same parameters except for the fact that it's got a 0 thickness. Oops, comma. That's not what I wanted to see. Although it looks cool. It is not what I wanted to see. Thickness should be set to 0 initially, which means your initial thickness is 0, which means that should be 0. Ooh, I'm going to take a quick look at this link from Obner. This is awesome. So I'm sure a lot of people following or watching this have heard of it, but in case you haven't, Obner Coimbre in the chat is starting up a handmade dev website called handmadedev.org, I believe is the main URL. Correct me if I'm wrong. And another chat regular, Chronal Dragon, wrote a manifesto, and it looks like this is a article on that in German, which he is sharing now because 4coder is going to be featured on the website, so that will be cool. This is really, really cool. Yeah, that would be awesome to know what it says. Eyes Bear asks if I need it translated. I mean, I could try Google Translate, but I don't even think it's probably not worth it, right? Alright, so I'm trying to figure out why the silver one isn't thin and appears to be overlapping the brown one. It's like, oh, duh, look at this. I didn't pass the correct parameters right here. Debug params. There we go. Gotta rebuild it. There we go. That's what I was hoping to see. So now we can see. Alright, that's going to waste too much time. One quick thing. Ruh. There we go. So this silver one is showing me where the tree is, like where the points of the tree would be if they hadn't got the thickness adjustments. So like these ones right here, what's basically happening is there's like a circle around that silver point, and each step of the way it picks another angle around that circle and puts it there. And the problem is that makes the distance between these isn't really what's being controlled there. What's being controlled is the radius or the diameter of this, right? So I said I want this much thickness here, but I don't have, like, the thickness of this just is forced by that. So I have one of two choices. I either say that when I set the thickness of this, I just have to be smart and not make it bigger than the distance between these 2 points, or I do something to explicitly control the distance between these 3 things, which, how would I do that? I want these 2 to stay where they are, so really it's a matter of repositioning these in a smart way, which I think it could just be a matter of, you know, it's more of an ellipse than a circle, so the radius changes, right? Or not necessarily an ellipse, but it's definitely a situation where I change the radius based on something. Based on something. Well, what I really want is I would definitely want it on this angle, right? I want it to be halfway between these two lines, that point. Is that even where it is, though? Let me take a peek at this in a zoomed in scenario. Oops. Yeah, I'd kind of like to know if that point is actually where I want it. Looks like it's closer to the left than I want it anyway. But it's hard to know for sure if that's true. I mean, yeah, I guess I wouldn't know because the angle of that isn't actually relevant. That's what's confusing me because all that matters is the positions. Oops, let me. Yeah. So, like, there's this, and then there's this. Oh, stop that. This and, oops. This and this. Roughly, yeah. I think the points are in the right spot. So what I want to do is just say we're going to try to change the radius of this. So this is like on this line here. And the point is, if I had control over the distances, I don't even know if I can make 3 equidistant points. What I could say is that I'm not going to do this by a radius at all. Then instead what I'm going to, well, I would have the radius of that, and then instead of thinking about the angles, then what I would do is I would say that, you know, so I have a point there and I have a point there just because I set the thickness of the tree here. And then at this point, and then I say how thick I want each of these to be. And so I know where that is. I know the angle of that. I know the angle of that. So I would set If I set 3 sizes, can I guarantee that they work? It totally depends. I mean, if I'm making this generic so that I can have any number of branches at a certain point, which is what I've been trying to do, then if there's only one, that just has to be equal to that. If there's 2, they'd have to follow the triangle inequality so that these 2 add up to at least this much or more. And then if I did that and they were like super huge like this, so there would be a point here and then it'd go way up here where I'd rather have the point actually be there. So yeah, I don't want this to be where, I don't want to level these 2 points with the point they're in. I actually want that to be the center of a sort of a polygon here. Okay, that makes sense. And then what I do is I say how long this part of the polygon should be, and then I have some number of sides here, and I set how long they should be. And the rule is just however many they are times how many there are has to be at least equal to that, but preferably more. Okay. So that makes it 2 parameters. All right. So first things first, when you set the thickness of a spot, branch count is how many branches is known, because that's the max, the branch max. So the question is just, do I set that as a parameter here or not? And I'm going to say that it should be, because that will give me flexibility for now. And then if it's wrong, I just take that out. So it's like branch thickness. And yeah. Whatever. All right, so then the next issue is to redo this part here where we compute the offset, because it's no longer anything like this. It's a lot different. Let me bring Paint up again so I can do this math real quick. Okay, so D7 Samurai asks, what exactly is this tree project? I'll show. The main point is to test 4coder. It's all being written in 4coder. So I just picked something that I thought I would have to actually use my brain, and so because I don't know how to do it, and it's complex enough that I'll have to do it in a few stages, and I'll have to, compile and debug and all those things. So I just got something that would get me doing the whole development cycle. And doing it in 4coder just to make sure that everything is smooth. And also, I picked tree because it would be fun to be able to do that. So that's what the point of the tree project is. Yes, that's the big idea, is to use 4coder and see how it works. Well, to see how well it works. I know exactly how it works. Okay, that's good. So I have a center of a polygon, and then the properties of this polygon are that I know that it has a flat bottom, and these two lines here should be equidistant. This one and this one. And the angles there should be equal. And then other than that, if there is only one branch, then what happens is those are just left and right. Right? It doesn't. These have no angle. But if there's two or more branches coming out, then I have a second number, which is how long each of those branches should be, and so they're all the same length as well. So let me get 3 lines that look like they're the same length to me. So I set the length of how many there are. And so I would just want to sort of... Okay, so what I would have to do is treat that as the center, figure out that as the radius, and go around. So then the only question is, how far down do I have to go for this line? That's really the only question. How far down is that line? Okay. How far down is that line? Well, I was saying I want the dot to be in the center of the polygon. So that's the question, is how do I define the center? And I guess what I really meant was that the height up here is the same, and that's pretty tricky to compute, because that has to do with how many there are, and you get into like, if you have 10, for example, which would be too many, but just for 3, that's a matter of what's the y component of this, which I don't know. I know the length of this, so I would need to figure out the angle of that, which is a function of the length of that and the length of this. Specifically, it's the angle at which that plus that. Yeah, so it gets pretty weird because it's like a different... I don't know the general rule for what that would be. What I could say is, I do know more general rules for polygons that go all the way around. Right, so if we just say there's an imaginary... Whoops, not what I wanted. There's an imaginary second half to this polygon that I never actually output, but that it would be there in theory. And I know the length of the size of this, so what I'm really trying to generate is these points, the top half of the polygon. And it's a regular polygon. All of the sides of the polygon are the same length. So then I just need a function that says given a polygon with an even number of sides, what is the height of it? Because then I can say, take that point there, go a quarter of the height down, and there's the line. Awesome. So that's the problem. How do I get the height of a polygon whose sides are all the same length? And whose well, the hard part about that is, like, if I have two up here, 1, 2. See, that's not all there is to it, because I'm also specifying this length here. So it's not actually a regular polygon. If it's not regular, they all have the same length, it's just the angles aren't correct. Okay, so I'm going to say, like for 2 I would know how to do it, because that's just the center of that there wouldn't be too hard to find. And for 3, the angle is, well, is the angle always the same? No, the angle is based on that length. It's a tricky problem. It's interesting. And it's a little bit hard to think through for some reason. So for the triangle, what's the rule? The triangle, the rule is you take this point and you want to know what the height of it is. And if you know the length of this and the length of one of these, you just need to say that you have to fit two of them horizontally. So then you're picking an angle such that when you take the cosine of that angle, you get an x value that you can multiply by 2 and get this diameter, right? And then you plug that in, you take the sine of that angle and you multiply by the length and you get the height. Is there an easier way to do that? Well, I know the length of that. Of course there is, Alan. Here's what I would do for this, actually. So I know the length of this, and it's just Pythagorean theorem. So it would be that square, this squared minus that squared, then take a square root and give me the height of this. Okay. What about for 3? So the height of this has to do with, again, Pythagorean theorem, but I don't know the x component now, so maybe not. Well, the x component would be whatever you get when you do this whole thing minus this much divided by 2, right? Because then you'd get that x component. So you can get that exponent, or that x component, by subtracting that out. Okay. I'm just going to iterate through a few more steps to see if I can find the general rule, and if not, I'll just say that I'm limiting it to 2 and 3 splits, and I'll implement those as 2 special cases. So a 4 might look something like this. So here you'd have to rely on the fact that these 3 angles have to be the same, and that this angle, that angle is totally unrelated. It could be anything. Yeah, I have absolutely no idea. There's too many unknowns. Because, I mean, you could say you want to do... Stop that. You want to do this height, for example, right? How do you find this x component? Well, you'd have to subtract the x component of this. How would you find that? Well, that's not a right angle. That could be any angle. So there's no way of knowing it just on that length. So you want, that's not going to help you, but then maybe you know, here's a right triangle, I guess. How would that help? Do I know that length? I don't know that length. That seems like the end of the road to me. I don't think I can figure out how I would do 4. Not off the top of my head in a simple way. Okay, we're going to go with 2 or 3 being the limit there. So what I want is, I'm going to pull this out into a separate function and make it work. And the function would look something like this. Split point, and then I need to pass it the parameters, so that's the thickness and branch thickness, and how many branches it has, and which branch I want. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So if you have a branch count of 2, for example, you do 0, 1, and 2 are the counts you put in there. So there's actually 3 points you get out of 2 branches. Okay. Split point, thickness, whoops, we're going to rename these big R, D, distant, the small distance, the big distance, big dist, small dist. That seems good. Branch count, or branches, branch and I. Okay. Now we gotta compute that stuff. And technically I said 2 and 3 are special cases, but also 1. So I'm just gonna switch on branch n, also 0. So for case 0, oops. Yeah, I don't like my auto tabber right there. Case 0 is just going to return 0. Okay, and for case 1, it's just a matter of dot x equals negative big dist or positive big dist based on whether you have an I of 0. Oops, don't have that. So x equals big dist positive. Case 2. point. I need to know how far to descend. The answer is half of the height. The height is, right, so do some Pythagorean. A, B, C. A equals big dist. C equals, no, C equals big dist times 0.5. A equals small dist. And then I need to square those. And I need to switch their names. And then B equals C minus A, and then it's the square root of that. Okay. Okay, so that gives me the height, and then what I want to do is I want to say that the points are oops, that one should be negative there, that one should be there, that should be 0. Alright, so case 3. This one's even harder. Let me see if I can remember what I got to do. It's similar in that it's just a Pythagorean theorem, it's just the hard part is getting B is even worse. Or getting A is even worse. So, first I need to take big distance. I need to subtract one small distance from it. And then I need to do I need to do oh, wait a minute. With 3, small distance doesn't even necessarily need to be smaller, which means this only works when small distance is smaller. If it's equal, which is totally possible, it would make a square shape. And if it's bigger, it could even work that way. I have to think about that separately. Okay. And then 0.5F there. So small distance to C. That stuff there is A. Square it, blah blah blah. You get B. Okay, and then I need a switch of this type. So x negative b times 0.5, perfect. X and negative b times, yep, so that's correct. Now the question is, what is the x position of that? And the answer would be that it's minus half of a small distance, or negative big dist. Oh, you know what, I messed something up, because I'm treating big dist as if it was so that's times 0.5, but it's actually a half situation too. That's confusing. Oh well. So 2 times that would become, that is nothing, and that right there gets divided by 2 for the division, for the subtraction. That's good. Now what I could do is just say that this is negative big dist plus b, which, or plus a, which is that x component, or a minus that. And this is big dist minus a. Cool. So let's see what damage I've done to the list of errors. So I'll take 5 arguments. What does it take? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, I have to go in and add the branch thickness stuff. Initial thickness, branch thickness. Whoa, what was that? What did I just see? That was weird. Yeah, that was cool. Alright. Bug with cursor. And I started getting depressed today because I added a few features and nothing caused any bugs. So I was really actually upset about that because it makes me feel bad, and then I saw a bug just now and it made me feel better. Is that weird? Like, now I know I have something to fix. I'm not just flying blind here, but I actually have made the mistake that I know where it is. Alright, so let's see. Branch counts with some branch max. Oh, man. Where else do I use BP? Down here. So these need to know that they don't have that. Whereas these. So what do I want to set branch thickness to, just generally? If I always set it equal to the thickness, what will that be? Will that even be okay? Oh, you know, I guess I totally undid it because the the case for 2, the branch thickness can be as large as you want to. It's actually fine. Huh. I have to go revisit the math because I didn't quite think that through correctly. Okay. So for the case for 2, the branch thickness is your C, which can be as large as you want. Okay, so it's not small dist. We'll just call it subdist, part dist, branch dist. I don't like that name, but it's the best thing I can actually think of. Branch dist. Okay, so see there. Then the question is this part correct? If branch dist is if half of branch dist is equal to, so if basically if the branch dist and the total diameter, which is double of the big dist, as I called it, which is really more like base radius. Oops, well, I don't even know if this math is correct, so I'm going to leave that for a minute. Well, no, I'm going to change it because I'll get confused if I try to read it to think it through. Base radius. Stop that. Base radius. Okay, so the question is this correct? And it seems like it won't be at a certain point, which is the point where those start getting so large that you actually have them bending out instead of bending in. And that would happen when the length of branch dist divided by 2 is equal to base radius. Or that is to say, when it makes a box, that's when it's equal. So when that A becomes 0, C would be that whole height, and you get 0 squared is 0, C squared is that squared, C minus 0 gives you B squared, that gives you, okay, so that would give you back the height correctly. Boom, 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 boom. Now what if it was even larger? A actually becomes negative, and then you square that and it looked like it was positive. That's where I think it's going to be wrong. So let me think through that case and see how it looks different. Alright, so what we have is a base that looks sort of like this. I need to zoom in. Okay. Again. The base looks like this. And then we have 4 legs that look like this. Okay, hold on, I need to reposition myself now. Okay, base. Something larger than the base. Like so. Those probably aren't long enough, but the idea is now, don't do that. Now I need this height. A is going to be negative. As those get bigger, what is the height of that? Well, the height of that is that squared. I guess it still works, because you take that, it's negative, but if you square it, you can treat it like it's positive by squaring it, and that still gives you the same height. Does that mean that as this gets, I guess as it gets bigger, it's going to start getting shorter? That's interesting. Does it ever, maybe it converges towards 0? How would it even do that? Because that and that would always be twice as big as that. Yes, keyword cable, I should be using Mischief, but at this point I should get it because I do this enough. I think by next time I will get it. Okay, so I'm kind of thinking that this is correct. Oh, this 4coder splash screen should be the trapezoid, the MS Paint trapezoid. Oh, when you say splash screen, you mean load screen. I thought, I mean, I was entertaining the idea of, upon installing, if there is any sort of installer, having a sort of options thing, and that you'd get a sliding bar that allows you to slide between like 1 second and 2 minute startup time. So when it's like when you launch 4coder, how long do you want to view the loading screen? And you just slide this bar. In case you're very comfortable, like you are, maybe you work for Microsoft or Facebook or something, and you don't want it to launch so quickly, because then what are you going to do? Write code? So maybe you want to slide that farther over, is what I'm thinking. It's all about the user, really. So. Okay, I'm kind of convinced that this might be correct. So I'm going to see about it building. 96. Okay, so that's not right. Let me make it big. We're back to the alien tree now. I need like a... Okay, we're going to do another bit of a toggling thing. So, internal bool32 do toggle ID mouse state mouse. If mouse, press L and hit check mouse X, mouse Y. Correct. one. Result. Oops. Get an undo in there someday soon. And then a mygl rectangle rect v4. Keyboard Caleb asks, does 4coder have something like Emacs Quick Calc? If not, I have an API which can parse mathematical expressions and handle order of operations. 4coder, that's an interesting thing. It doesn't have that as a command that you can do right now. As part of the parser for C++ and the preprocessor, it absolutely does have a sort of expression handler that's built in, and I feel going to abstract that expression handler so that it can be used as a tool directly as well. But if you want to share the API, I'll take a look at it. I probably won't include it just because if I include an external API, I'm either going to have to keep it synced up or I just write over it eventually anyway when I want to add something or change it, and then our versions diverge, and so at that point it'll slowly become mine anyway. But I'll definitely take a look if you want to share it. Let's see. All right, we're at the 1 hour mark right about now. So I'm gonna keep plowing ahead because I'm gonna do this for 2 hours. So I'm gonna do another hour, but just letting you know where we are. Okay, so I need to do. The thing I was going to do is I need to tell this whether to do active. Right? So if active, uh, 0.6 f, copy, boop, boop, boop. Else Cuber Caleb, I suggest you use a binary tree that's embedded in an array. That's how mine works, and it gives you the double advantage that you can treat it both ways. I mean, if you know what I'm talking about. Let's see. Looks good. So I want to do, once that's all done, I'll do a sort of rect x0 equals rect x1, rect.x1 plus equals int jack, those are parentheses, not square brackets. And it shouldn't be 0.1f, it should be 1.f. Yeah, it's 1.f, right? Unless you're seeing that somewhere else. Do adjuster. No, do toggle. ID mouse. Show debug tree rect with an if around it, so that you do show debug tree. Who's not? Show debug tree. It's more like a button though. Wait, that should say adjuster. What am I doing? Let's go down here. So then all of this work here is if vars show debug tree, boom, cool. And then vars show debug tree. It's not a member of mouse state, really? It's not? There we go. Mouse state. Oh, PL. Okay. Just saw something I gotta change. Cool. Alright, so I can toggle that off real quick, which I wanted so that I could take a quick look at the alien tree situation. Yeah, it looks like placement of a couple of those is wrong. Those are wrong in a different way, which is interesting. At least I think they are. Alright. X B times 0.5. Alright, debugger time. Alright, let's take a look. A and B. Oh, and C. They're both positive, and A is, oh, let's see, branch radius, branch dist, wait a minute, base radius, branch dist. So this is half the size of this. It's half the size of that, which means that what? That's, well, it means that we've not gotten to the box point yet. It's not a box shape, because this has to be twice as big as this to get to the box shape. So we have half of that and then that, right? And so we square them both. We get B is 42.1875. I'm going to use my calculator here to take the square root of that. 6.4951. Yep, that's good. We're looking for case 0, right? X equals negative base radius. Y equals half of that. So that B should be the whole height. Okay, so the zeros were coming out correct though, so that's not surprising really. What one is this? Another 0. Another 0. There's a 1. Ooh, I have a theory already. Okay, I already know one problem with this. Okay, so we have some smaller stuff. Square those is fine. Calculate B. Or B squared. So what's the square root of 13.34837? 3.6535. Good. I is 1. Negative base radius is negative 4.25. Okay. A. Oh, there's my problem. I'm using A there, and I just squared it. Okay, so it's not the same A that I had originally. That was just me trying to be, oops, wrong one, trying to be dense with my code, and it biting me. So, let's do this. No, this one I actually can get away with that. A, C, C for the squared versions. A equals A times A. C equals C times C. That's probably not strictly necessary, actually. But I'm going to do it anyway. B becomes that, so A will still be correct. And so we'll solve the first of at least 2 problems that I know of. Yeah. Okay, so there's another problem. Why is this lower than that, right? Oh. Wait a minute, that's not... Okay. So at that point there, ignoring the craziness, that is the first one, so that must be coming from there, yeah. That one goes up to there, sure. And the question is, what is this guy? What is this guy doing so much higher than this guy? negative and positive are backwards. I'm not doing computer math. I was doing mathy math. There, that's closer. It's closer. There's some problems in here, then I know what those problems are. But it's not, well, I know what the problem is. That's too thin. I can just scale that up and make it bigger. So let's deal with the fact that this is rotated wrong. So what I did wrong here was I said that all I have to do is generate points and just assume that the whole thing is going to be a flat baseline there. But that's only true if it's pointing up. These things that are pointing sideways need to rotate everything once they get it. So to rotate something, once I get the output, I have to remember a good way to do rotation. A good way to do rotation. There's a way I can do it while avoiding having to do like conversion to polar coordinates and then back. I don't want to do it that way, because I think it's more efficient to do it the linear algebra way. Isn't it like all right, let's see. Let's see, if I have a vector, like so, I want to rotate it. That's an x component and a y component, right? So I have an x component and a y component. X, y. And I need to multiply that by a matrix that does 2 by 2. Isn't it? It's like I want to take how much x I have and multiply that by, I have, if I have all x and no y, what do I want? Then I want the y-ness to be that times the sine, and I want the x-ness to be that times a cosine, right? So cos theta, sine theta. And if I want vertical thing to rotate by theta, then the amount of y I get It's y, x times those things, y times those things. So if I'm rotating it, you know, in a positive direction, then, oh man. Y starts at 1, so it's like a cosine on y towards 0 as the theta goes up. And the x is negative sine, is that right? Is this right? It seems, I thought the negative was on the cosine down here, but it seems to make more sense to put it this way. I think this is correct. Because x is going to go negative there. Oh wait, y is... do I have to think about this in terms of... No, I can think about this in terms of mathy coordinates because I convert correctly to screeny coordinates myself everywhere. Okay. In terms of the rotation. So, let's open up math and we'll do vectors. Back to this, probably we want not inline. Rotate. Back or b theta degrees, and then we need to take the sine of theta and the cos of theta, and then we need a result, which is x equals y equals x equals cos theta minus sine theta, and that's sine theta plus cosine theta. And then this one is times x times y times x times y. And when I say x and y, I mean v dot. Cool. I think that does it. Let's pull out this one. All right, so, oh, that's ugly. Blue. Must be rounding that. 20 minutes into the second hour. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is use the rotation. Okay, so once we get the output P from there, we want to rotate P by theta. And then the only problem is I have that outputting it where the natural thing is 270. So it's actually like theta minus 270, right? Because the amount of rotation that I want is like, I want, well, if I was thinking about this in terms of the math orientation, the tree is actually upside down. And then the rotation becomes a larger number as theta becomes larger and a smaller number as the theta becomes smaller. At 270 the rotation is 0. So it's theta minus 270, I think. Whoa! No, no! That is not the right idea at all. Okay, something's off with that rotate, probably. Oh, you know what I should do? I'm rotating it around the wrong. Equals, wait, hold on. It was phase plus this much, right? Or position. Yep, that's it. Interesting. Okay, looks like everything's back to where it was before. And now I've got a thickness variation option. Very interesting. Okay, so that's all looking like it's good. And then I want to do something smarter here. Basically, I want to try this being twice as big. And the reason for that is the this right here is the radius. So if you look at the next branch, the 2 points that where the thing starts splitting off, the base part, that thickness there, that parameter there is the radius. So basically, it's half the distance between those 2 points. Whereas this down here is the distance. Yeah, it's the distance between two things on the other end. So it's anyway, let's take a look. Aha. Well, my intuition was correct. I just can't quite understand why So yeah, that's what I wanted it to look like. It's just why is there why is that correct? So the this here is now equal to this here, which makes that bigger than that, right? But it should be the same. The width of this versus the width of this, are they the same now? The confusing part is that that's a radius, right? So basically these are the same size as this. And that is also the same size, or what? No. Okay, so it's not decreasing by half each step is the thing. Right, so what I've really done is I made that just way bigger. What I should really do now is get around to separating this into thickness decay. Then I can explore that correctly. I'll reorder those a little bit. Whoops. Did I not keep it? D theta. Okay. Okay, I want to reorder these down here. So, initial step, step decay, d theta, and then I want a thickness decay right here. And up here, thickness decay equals, we'll start at 0.75, and I'll take a look. That's just straight up not going to work. Here's what I actually need to do. There we go. Redefinition. Sorry. Thickness. Okay. So here is the branch decay. You can see it gets a little weird when those get too small or too big. I still gotta do the thing where sub-branches of branches don't do that. And there's thickness, initial thickness, and then there's thickness decay. Whoa. So right there, the math probably stopped working. It's very fidgety. I don't like that. Like that shouldn't. If I'm gonna have a parameter for a thing, I want the range of that parameter to generally produce nice looking, at least close to what you want things. So like this is not what I want it to be like at all, right? So I want to figure out what am I missing? There's like one spot where this whole thing works. And, not everything is varying with it. That is, okay, I see, this is not what I want. Thickness decay. decay. Okay, thickness decay now. Okay, that's more reasonable. It's not amazing, but there, like, the thickness stays the same throughout the whole tree. Here, the thickness is getting less and less throughout the whole tree. And if I start with more initial thickness, I can decay more. Haha, that is kind of neat. Alright, and then is this the sort of look I want? I think that's the number of steps, right? Oh, look at that. That's kind of neat. It's still so regular, though. I gotta get to irregularity soon. Like, there you have that looks like Final Fantasy. I don't know if that's, or maybe some sort of video gamey thing looks like that to me. And then if I do somewhere in there, I guess I would need to play with it a bit more to get exactly what I was thinking I could get. More branch decay, less branch decay, shorter. Oh man, there's so many weird things you can do. Okay. Less initial thickness. You heard it here first, a video gaming thing. Oh man, that is so weird. Abner Coimbra is asking me how I sleep at night. He claims that I use Egyptian brackets. And then he says if bracket, which is I can't understand what you're saying. Adam, you're not right. You're not speaking C because no if has ever been followed by a curly brace. It's always been followed by a parenthesis. So I don't even know what you're talking about. But if you mean the fact that I don't put new lines here, I sleep like a baby. Oh man. Ugh. There's some weird spots in here. I think those are just matters of bad combos. Let me refresh the settings because I can't even figure out how to like get this back normal. There we go. Boop, boop. Yeah, so base thickness, if it gets pretty wide, you get some weird effects. But the point is, that's looking pretty good. Like, it's got more control there now. And it sort of correlates, like the size kind of goes together all the way through. They're still dependent on each other. Like, you can't mess with one and not the other, but I'm not sure that I want to really. And this thickness decay has to be pretty high. Like, it's pretty precisely placed thing, it seems. Interesting. All right, so that's the thing I planned on solving. So now I've got some free time. What do I gotta do? What do I gotta do next? I really would like to get this to be less fractally. So I want to think about that. Well, here's one thing I can do that would just be weird and good. A good experiment to get started. Two, three. Yeah, I'm not sure you're all talking about. Egyptian style is clearly better because like you want your code to be close together. I don't understand why you would ever like this. I wish this didn't have to happen. I would almost prefer this, but not quite. I just don't quite prefer that. But like, what a waste of lines. Yeah, I'm watching Abner. I can see that you're all discussing the finer points of clean code. All right, so what I'm going to do is each frame we're going to increment k, and then when it becomes time to do a branch, we're going to say, hey, what's the branch count going to be? If k modulo 3 equals 1, we'll do a 2, otherwise we'll do a 3. And then I'll drop that right there, and that will add a little bit of irregularity, hopefully. Okay, I can't use the same variable for two different things, so j. Interesting. So that is not a huge amount of difference. Hey, it's starting to get a little bit, so it's a little bit different. That's a little bit different. It's not very much different, but it's a little bit different. Do, 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 do. Okay, the other thing I should fix is that these sub-branches tend to stay too long. And I'll deal with more irregularity stuff later. So basically, this step decay thing is the thing I have a problem with. It's not fast enough. Okay, so step times decay gives you one step lower. And you want to say, next time do the decay twice, or do a little more decay. Or I could do more irregularity. I could say, so thickness times thickness decay, or thickness. Grab a copy of that. And then if J, you want to talk about clean code, tell me what you think about this bad boy. Like that one line on if, no curly braces, not even a new line. So, is anyone gonna flame now? Now's the time. I just did something absurd. Is that working? If j modulo 5 equals 3, equals thickness decay a second time. I don't know, do any of them look more decayed than usual? Yes, Elephant, I could have done a ternary, but it would have been a longer one. I like ternaries when they're going when there are going to be constants here. I do them, or one variable with a short name. Otherwise, they kind of get unreadable, I think. Yeah, I don't see the double decay happening. It doesn't feel like it's happening. Why is it not happening? Should I up it more? Should I like really push the new thickness problem far? Maybe I didn't build it correctly or something. Oh, I'm adjusting the thickness. I don't care. I don't care about the thickness. Oh, yeah. Jeez. Okay. Thickness times thickness decay. I don't care about thickness. What I care about is this. Step decay. New step. Alright. Let's try that. Yes, run bracket. Can't tell. Can't tell for sure. It feels like it might be working, because this feels shorter. We're going to up it. by another level. We're going to triple decay it. Oh yeah, it's working. It's just not working the way I expected it to. I expected to see one branch, but all three branches. If I do the decay alone, okay. I see what's happening. So we need to... The decay actually is what... New step. That tells it... Okay, so when I push one of these on the stack, that sets the length for all of the... Geez, Abner. Wow. Okay. Whatever. Keep the chat, somewhat, professional. I mean, not professional, but at least don't make everyone that uncomfortable. Man. Wow. Okay. So let's see. I need to be able to make one branch smaller and not the whole set, because that's what this is doing. Is it's one full set of branches. I want to be able to say make some branches small for randomly. So the thing to do. Okay, first of all, I want to just ignore this irregularity thing for a minute. We'll think of that some other time. More importantly, we need step times param step decay. Let's see, do we still have Abner in the chat? Is he still here? Hold on, I'm checking. Whoa. Abner's just gone. I didn't even have to time him out. You see that? Interesting. Alright, so here's the deal. We need I think in this we're just gonna have to store the current step decay, and we're gonna decay the step decay more quickly. That's really the only option. So at each step, you store the step and the step decay. And down here, params.step decay. And what's going to happen is at each level, we don't care about this one as always, so I'll just zero that. But I should make, I'll do that next time because we're running low. I want to do cool stuff before we run out of time. And then do this is the step decay from the stack. And then do that times that is the new decay. What is this? What was that? Is it just too short? It decayed too much for the thickness? Yeah, that's the problem. So if the thickness is a bunch and the branch length isn't, you get a problem with that. Alright, thickness. Step decay. Maybe the thickness needs to decay faster now. Oh, look at that. That's starting to get there. I wish it wasn't splitting right there, though. So I'm going to adjust this. Just arbitrarily for now. I'll have to do more correct things to get the irregularity I want next time, I guess. Oh, now all of the 2's are at tips. Okay. Done with this. We're going to try 5 modulo 4. Trying to get one that looks good. No, it's still just at the tips. 2 modulo 0. Oh, I've been missing messages on the chat because Twitch was all messed up. All right, let's see what we got here. Cubicale asks if 4coder will have regex with macros. I'm not sure what you mean regex with macros. If you mean will it have regex and macros, the answer is no. It might have one of those things or neither, but it won't have both. I can tell you that much. Because I know which of those things I will do and which ones I won't. Questions, what's the difference between a tree and a heap? Canucles, I saw the word finesse earlier, but I didn't have any idea what you were talking about. I just went on because I didn't even know you were talking to me. So okay, now, so any attempt I do to make it irregular, it just does something else that's regular. Okay, let's make it thinner up top. It's so crazy. Like I did 2 now, and 2 just means that you get something at the same spot everywhere. So that's no good. Let's pick. Let's say we're gonna do it when 3 or if 5. Maybe that will give me the effect I'm looking for here. Maybe that'll be all we need to do for today. I'm still getting 3, 3, and then randomly 2 and a few 3's up there. Not what I want to see. So put 2. Save. Build, debug. Run. What's that doing? Okay. I have to make sure I make this decay. No, that's the thickness. Where's the decay? I want less decay because it goes faster now. Less thickness. More thickness decay, actually, is what I mean to say. Alright, that is kind of cool. It's still, I mean, it's still totally regular. Look at this. 2, 2. Okay, so this approach is just not going to work, is the lesson. It's still basically a fractal. Aye. Yeah, so if I'm gonna make it more irregular, I'm getting a little bit of irregularity there because you've got like this one creates 2 3s, this one creates a 3 and a 2, this one creates a 2 and a 2. These all came out as 2s. All the tips are pretty irregular. It's just it needs time to like, I don't know, to get into the process and get sort of shifted around and randomized, I guess. I don't know. But what I'm going to do next time is find a better way to irregularize it and start trying to make it not do overlapping. Because I want it to properly be a polygon. So that's it. I did it. Just a reminder. That was all coded in 4coder today. Check out 4coder.net. Check out handmadedev.org. The manifesto. Make sure you check out everything. I'm guessing everyone on Twitch is fully aware of all of this, but you know, just in case. So, anyone got any questions about 4coder or anything before I sign off? Yes, Abner, thanks for coming too. I always enjoy a stream when people show up. Yeah, handmadedev.org is not actually up yet. I said check it. I think I meant to say check it out when it's up, which, you know, is when the site is available, check it out, which means you just have to like keep guessing, hoping that it's up till it is. Okie doke. Thanks everyone for joining me. I'll probably do some more at some point this week. So